Today is Sunday, March 17th, and this is Celtics Beat on the CLNS Media Network, the leading online provider of audio-video coverage of the Boston Celtics. I'm Adam Kaufman, and episode 306 featuring Celtics radio analyst Cedric Maxwell is brought to you by betonline.ag. Go to clnsmedia.com/CelticsBeat or use the promo code CLNS50 to get a 50% bonus on your next deposit. Today's show also brought to you by The Athletic. Get 40% off your monthly subscription just by going to theathletic.com/CelticsBeat. Welcome in, new edition of Celtics Beat. Adam Kaufman here with you, and normally I'd preamble and whatever else. I don't want to do that. We got a whole lot to cover, and we're going to bring on a guy who is, he's a good friend of the program for one, but also routinely one of my favorite guests. I'm not just saying that because he's here. He knows that. He always makes me laugh. Cedric Maxwell, C's radio analyst, and of course a former NBA Finals MVP. Max, how are you?
I'm doing fine, sir. How about you?
Well, like I said, you're here, so I'm doing great.
Great. Yeah. All right. Let's get it.
We got a lot to get into. Let's start, though, with this plane ride, the one that, headed out west before that trip. Everyone has talked about it after the team had lost 5 of 6, instantly finds its mojo, blows out the Warriors, survives the Kings without Kyrie Irving that next night, convincing win over the Lakers before the ugly loss to the Clippers. We know that. This actually is what Kyrie had to say about the flight right after beating Golden State.
That long plane ride helped us out. We needed it. We were going to get to a point where we were just going to get tired of fighting each other, fighting the outside world, and it doesn't really matter. So we just want to come out here and just play basketball. This is our sanctuary, and we have to do everything to protect it. We can't let anybody infiltrate this.
Max, what happened on that flight? Was it just a giant Jerry Springer episode or what?
Well, it's really funny. The plane, it's a huge plane, 757. And so the players are essentially in the front, and the media, we're all the way in the back. So we don't really see that much of them. I think, but what they do, they're playing cards and they're playing dice, and I think it gives them somewhat of a sanctuary to get away and have to be with each other. Whereas this league is a constant thing where individuals put on their headphones or they're gaming or whatever it is, and social media. But on that plane, it was somewhat of a sanctuary. There is Wi-Fi, but they're forced to kind of be with each other for a while and to get a chance to know their teammates a little bit better and just to kind of let off some steam after, having such a horrid week before the way they played.
Did that have to happen? This far into the season, I don't know exactly what it was, but call it 60, 65 games into the year, something like that, where it's not a blow-up necessarily. I don't think, and there have been no reports of guys on the plane just screaming at each other, but where you do have to, 3 quarters into the year, have that little venting session, clear the air a little bit versus guys getting on the same page much earlier in the season. Because I know that's what a lot of people have worried or wondered about. Why is it taking so long?
Well, let's do it like this. Let's just say, like when you have your television and you reboot it, and you have to sit down and just look at a black screen for a while, and all of a sudden the information comes back on and it's crystal clear, your TV's back on. That seemed like what the Celtics did. They rebooted. And I think they're they're more focused. I think that what you see is glimpses of what could make them and what makes them good. Having the resurgence of Gordon Hayward, playing well. Morris the other day, rebounding the basketball. They're just starting to play. This is the way you need to be playing going into the playoffs, of, extending yourself, of understanding how to win games. To go out there and if you told Brad Stevens or Danny Ainge or anybody with the Celtics that they were going to go on that 4-game road trip, and they were going to come back 3-1, and they were playing Golden State and teams like that, and all those teams that beat them, you would say, you would accept that immediately. And Celtics beat Golden State convincingly, and it's just it was fun to see them back into that little rhythm and having a little bit of swagger in their game.
You know, I had Ben Rohrbach from Yahoo Sports on the show last week, and he just, as we were casually talking about the team and what's ailed them at points this year, he just, as a new dad, he is a kid only about a month old. I have a baby that's a little under a year old, and he just sort of floated offhandedly, you know what, like maybe these guys just kind of have to get away from their families a little bit. It's hard being obviously a young parent with young kids at home, trying to balance that with work, and you know, you're not sleeping as much despite all the money these guys make, and yeah, they have help, whether live-in nannies or whatever else, but you are increasingly just agitated when you're hearing crying or constantly changing diapers or doing whatever else. You played, you've experienced that, you've been in those locker rooms, and this team, there are a lot of guys, young guys with young kids as well. Do you buy into that theory at all?
Well, I don't know if I necessarily buy into that theory, and the reason I say that is because a lot of times what you'll see on the road is you'll see they will bring their kids. You know, Gordon Hayward, Daniel Tice, you know, they will have their kids on the – and I just think that just getting away from Boston and getting away from the pressure and being in a bubble, you know, is Kyrie staying? Well, what's going on there? Is Gordon Hayward playing? Is Terry Rozier? He's not been playing. It's all these things surrounding this team to get on a flight and then to go on the road and then to kind of eliminate some of the noise. I mean, you love playing at home, but it seems like there are times when the Celtics have played their worst basketball at home instead of playing their best basketball at home.
Brad Stevens said with the regular season winding down that the key to being ready for the playoffs, like you talked about, obviously it's getting all on the same page, but obviously also everyone improving their habits on defense, especially transition, half-court D, and execution. Those are the main areas. Is anything missing? You like food, let's put it this way. Any other recipes for this secret sauce of success?
I think the biggest thing about this team right now is that they have to defend in transition. To me, rebounding the basketball, if you get Baines back, I think that's a good thing for you too, especially playing a team like Philadelphia, because Baines is, you know, that big body that Joel Embiid can't go through. So I look at some of those things, the health of the team, and just the mental state of the team, of getting back on the same page of, you know, playing for each other. If they play for each other, they're going to have a very good second part of the season. But if they play individual basketball, it's going to be one and done.
You mentioned Aaron Baines, and I don't think it's a coincidence that the team has started winning since he's come back from the foot injury after missing a month. And I know people that like to live in the numbers, and it's not just that. It's watching. I mean, the eye test applies here too, I suppose. But negative net rating when he's been on the floor. The team has struggled on both ends when he's been on the floor. We're only talking about a handful of games, a small sample size. But I do think that there's something about Aaron Baines' presence that transcends numbers. Of course, I've been accused of overrating his impact. So what do you think?
No, I think you're right. I think that what you look at Aaron Baines is that he's become a better scorer. I think the real big thing with him, he's a roadblock. You put him out there in the middle of the lane, he's disruptive defensively. Either he's taking charges or banging guys around or getting second chance opportunities. The first time I ever saw Aaron Baines play, I think what I remember was when he played with Detroit, and I was not really impressed. And then he came to the Celtics, and I started watching him do the smaller things and to see what kind of person he was. And he fits in so well with the younger players and the older players, and everybody loves him in this organization.
What's the most important thing facing the Celtics down the stretch, you think? You know, the top priority, focus, goal, whatever it is. What's the thing that just matters more than anything else right now?
Health. If they are a healthy team, I think they're going to be a dangerous team. So let's go with that. Health number one. Two, their mental state. If they're playing great basketball and mentally they're into each other. People are like, well, what do you mean by that? Well, when you're playing good basketball and you're playing for the love of your game and your teammates and blocking out the noise, that is one thing this team has not been able to do with all the other circumstances surrounding things. You've heard Kyrie say, well, this job, there are times when it's not fun. Not fun. Dude, this ain't like you digging a ditch or, having to make pancakes for somebody. This is, this is a job that is one of the most elite, most enjoyable jobs in the world. People right now would scratch your eyeballs out to have that particular job. So you have to understand, and I understand that the social media and all the pressures there, but you are part of the social media. There's one word that can stop a lot of that. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not on social media. But if you elect to be in that world, then you have to deal with it.
That's just a generational problem at this point. It's, less so even to the individual. I know you hear some guys like Chris Sale on the Red Sox doesn't have any of the social media accounts, doesn't go near it, doesn't want to be bothered with it. But then you see his buddy David Price there, and obviously members of the Celtics as well, that they, no matter what they say, they can't tune it out. It's a part of their lives, and whether they're even looking at it themselves or not, looking at their mentions and everything, they still have, and this would be for sale for anybody, anyone in that world, they all have family members, friends, people in their inner circle, agent, whoever, that still will regurgitate some of this stuff back to them. Is it just, are we just in a miserable society, a miserable time to live in this world right now where people are so consumed by the negative that the positive gets lost?
You are all over that. It is a different time. During the 80s when I played, the worst thing you could do, and I never did this, was I didn't read the newspapers. And I wasn't watching, all the shows, the talking heads. Well, now there are more talking heads, and more of these things are about you. And when a player decides that he wants to have an individual battle on Twitter, you're not taking on one person, but you're taking on the entire world, and people are piling on. Chris Sales might be the smartest person around by staying away from it. And just playing the game he loves. There's enough focus, trying to win, just being an individual. But when you collectively have to battle all these other tyrants and all these other things that are out there, it becomes that much more tough.
Have you seen enough, despite all the ups, downs, inconsistencies of this team, to trust these guys in the playoffs? You said they're dangerous. I completely agree with that. But have you seen enough? Are they ready to put all their own individual crap, all their own agendas to the side and work together toward a title?
I think they are. I'm seeing better signs. Like a couple of weeks ago, if you told me that the Celtics were playing Sacramento and got down by 15, 16 points, no way they win. I thought that they had a chance. And every time I would see something, I've seen like a resurgence right now of Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown had a tough role to fill. He was a starter. He was trying to fit his game within the system. And then he goes to the bench and he didn't quite understand how to play. Now he is playing his best basketball of the season. Gordon Hayward is starting to get acclimated, doing things to be a lot more aggressive, not only on the offensive end, but defensively. We're seeing a lot more from him. So those two variables alone, and you're seeing glimpses again of maybe Scary Terry. So I've always said this about this team. From top to bottom, this is the most talented team in the NBA. Not to having the best starting five, they have a great starting five. But when you're able to bring off Gordon Hayward and Terry Rozier and Jaylen Brown off the bench, there are not – I don't even think there's a team in the NBA that's able to match that player for player with the guys that come off the bench that can change the perspective of the game for you.
So with a little less than a month now till the playoffs and all of that in mind, Brad has prioritized, and I think logically, playing well, feeling good over seeding, even though that third spot in the East very much within reach. It's going to be a dogfight for that 3, 4, 5. How important to you is seeding and starting off at home and avoiding the road to begin?
Well, I think that you look at the Celtics right now, if they're healthy, that should be their priority. Seeding, it would be great if they were starting out at home because everybody wants to be cheered. But the Celtics have played some of their worst ball at home. So I don't know if seeding is as important to me as playing well. the thing that they have, to me, which is amazing, and I can't give you the stats like my broadcast partner, Sean Grandy, but he always breaks it down when he starts talking about Kyrie Irving and what this team is like, what the Celtics are like on the road with him and without him. Kyrie Irving may be one of the best assassins in the league, especially on the road. You think about it, he had a history shot in go against Golden State when he's with Cleveland to do something for that franchise that nobody's ever seen. If you told me in the NBA right now, if you gave me three guys that would I'd want to have the ball to in their hands at the end of the basketball game on the road, Kyrie Irving would be one of those three, and the others would be Durant and Curry. Kyrie is, to me, one of the best finishers maybe in the history of the game. So if you have Kyrie Irving on the road in those situations, I'm not sure if seeding is more important than just playing well.
Quick break to tell you today's show is brought to you by betonline.ag. Lots of good NBA games coming up this week to throw some money on. You want some free money, right? Of course you do. Tough one for the Celtics Monday night hosting Denver. Isaiah Thomas will be in town, so probably a tribute video, even though it looks like he may not play in that game. Could be a value play, though, if you're looking to take the C's money line. They're in Philly Wednesday night. Boston handles Philadelphia very, very well traditionally. In the Celtics money line, it's basically free money. I'm not jinxing this at all, just want to tell you the way it's been. Go to clnsmedia.com/CelticsBeat to get a 50% bonus when you sign up, or use the promo code CLNS50. Don't be left on the sideline with all this excitement going on the court. Plus, you can play in BetOnline's virtual casino, make some money there too. Don't forget about March Madness. It's coming up. So many games every single weekend. Opening weekend is a blast, and that is rapidly approaching next weekend. So many opportunities for you to cash in. Whatever you do, make sure you use BetOnline.ag. Use the promo code CLNS50 for a 50% bonus on your first deposit, or go to clnsmedia.com/CelticsBeat. Let's get back to the show. You mentioned Kyrie Irving. Let's get into the good stuff, because for me, for a lot of people, it's Kyrie. You know, as this for you, has this been like watching just a really weird movie? You know, dynamic on the court, all the drama off the court. You're close to the team, closer than the vast majority of us. What's this year been like watching it from, you know, not totally behind the curtain? You're not in the locker room, but from right there and just observing all that he is, I'm going to phrase it this way, gone through, but also put himself through.
Yes, I think that's the biggest thing, because you look at the beginning of the season, Kyrie Irving took all this stuff off the table by saying one thing. I gathered my teammates and I said, I'm coming back. All the noise was gone. There was no noise. You couldn't. There was nothing. And then somebody asked him a question, and he said, I don't owe anybody anything, and I'll see you in July during free agency time. That started the whole. It just the media, everything blew up. So I mean, it's been somewhat self-inflicted. And Kyrie has said it better than anybody. He said over the last couple of weeks, he said, I have not handled this well. I haven't handled this situation well. And because of that, it seems like he's turned on. You know, and the thing about Kyrie, I think the biggest thing, talented as hell, but smart as hell. Sometimes too smart, almost Rondo smart, where he knows your move before you. So dial it down a little bit. Just think about it as playing the game that you've loved for all these years. Whatever happens in free agency happens. But I look at it this way. If you're the Boston Celtics, you can pay Kyrie more money than anybody else.
Yep.
You're in a great situation here. He has his teammate, the fans adore him. He has great teammates who help him out. He is your number one option. Why would you leave if you're Kyrie Irving?
Well, I'm building.
If you're saying, okay, I want to go to New York, to put your foot in that.
Well, I was just going to say, Max, you know, building upon whether or not he leaves Boston, I know people like to have fun with would he reunite with LeBron in L.A., and I just don't think there's any chance of that, even though they've mended fences. But specifically New York, and I know he's from the area, and there's an appeal to going home, but it is a dumpster fire there. The team's a disaster.
Absolutely.
The owner is a disaster. The media is no better than it is in Boston. The fans are way less forgiving. Yeah, and in some ways, probably. The fans are less forgiving, like I said, and I know there's the locale, and there is that wanting to star at MSG, but the man would have to have his head examined.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If you're telling me that, it's like somebody was telling me that, hey, Klay Thompson's going to leave Golden State and he's coming to L.A. I said, for what? Why would you do that? And you're telling me right now Kyrie Irving would leave Boston to go to the Knicks. I'd be like, for what? Or go to L.A. to reunite with LeBron. Didn't he leave LeBron? And you want to go to L.A. to be in the Western Conference? This is one of those grass might look greener on the other side of the fence. You don't want that grass over there. Matter of fact, it's not even grass. It's something else. It's horse manure. The green color that you might not even want to look at.
It's the crap you're trying to grow the grass in.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't think that if you are Kyrie Irving, I mean, to me, and obviously, you know, he's going to do what he wants to do. But he was the one, as you said, and rightfully so, a lot of this situation, a lot of the noise around Kyrie was self-induced, self-inflicted. So, you know, maybe Kyrie has learned a lesson, and you go from there. But this is a very, very talented, one of the most talented basketball players maybe ever to put his shoes on in Boston.
I do think, Max, there's also a distinction in there. For instance, you know, most people at this point, with the regular season winding down and all the stuff that has happened this year, most people assume that Kyrie is leaving. I'm not one of them. I've never wavered in that. I believe that he is coming back. And in fairness, he went from, as you said, proclaiming his love for Boston early on to saying, ask me July 1st about his future. But what, you know, not a lot of people focus on is he never said he's not coming back. He never even said that he intends to test the market. He's just agitated and said, like, we're not talking about this right now. What do you expect? I know what your opinion is based on what you just said that he should be doing, but what do you expect?
I expect exactly what you and I talked about, and the fact that Kyrie will be back. I don't see a logical situation for Kyrie to leave. Danny Ainge has a lot of things he has to do this year. Are you going to make moves at the end of the off season? I mean, this is going to be a great year to be a Celtics fan and a Celtic watcher. I would not want to be Danny Ainge right now. With all the money to spend, with free agency out there. But what you have some solid pieces. You have Tatum, who is here. You have Brown, who is here. You have those guys still under contract, younger, dynamic basketball players. Gordon Hayward's going to get better. Al Horford. You have a solid, one of the top coaches in the NBA. You have a great fan base. So there's so many great things about the Boston Celtics that, that makes Danny's job a lot harder. But at the same time, I wouldn't want it for the world.
Yeah, possibly a few first-round draft picks coming his way as well. So he's still got that treasure trove of assets. But more on Kyrie. Have you, because, you get close to some of these guys, you talk to them privately off the air, away from the broadcast, and you go out to dinner occasionally with some of them. You had dinner recently with Shemi Ojale. Have you talked to Kyrie, just, the two of you, about how he's handled this year, the mood swings, the interactions with the media, his future, being in Boston, leadership, handling pressure, all that stuff, just all the things that he's had on his plate that have led to such a stressful year for him personally?
I mean, this is going to be quick. No. I have.
Is that because you haven't tried or because he doesn't let you in?
No, I think Kyrie is really, first of all, I'm not around Kyrie as much individually to sit down and talk to him. Me and Kyrie have had very limited conversations. And it's almost scary sometimes. He's like, hey, Max, you remember the time you and I were in Florida together when I was a rookie and I was going to come? I was like, whoa, Kyrie, you remember that? Yeah, I remember that. So conversations are very limited. He's a very quiet, introverted. He has a very, very small group of people that he interacts with. And Cedric Maxwell is not one of them.
I'm glad you mentioned the small group, though.
I'm friendly enough to talk to him.
Yeah.
But I don't know that much about Kyrie Irving. I mean, I asked him that question. It was, I think, last year. And when I said, I'm going to ask you a question you've never heard before. And Sean went on to say, oh, there's no question you can ask Kyrie. We had him on for postgame.
I remember hearing this.
I said, Kyrie, I said, what was it like the first time you beat your father?
Mm-hmm.
And he just exploded, man. He was like, oh, my God. Max, it was like the best feeling in the world. He said, it's like I'd won the championship. He said, I start crying. That's the most emotion I've got from Kyrie, and it was a great answer. It was one that he had not heard before. And, I thought we were going to be like buddies, but that's basically about it. That was last call for alcohol.
See, I can relate to that on a much smaller level because, I didn't play basketball. My kid will never at a high level play basketball. I mean, I played, but not like we talk about all of you people. But my kid, we'll be playing the Pop-A-Shot down in the basement, and he will constantly be saying, let me win. And I kill him every single time because you have to set that foundation of when you do finally beat me, it will feel so good for you.
Yes, that is true with every father out there. And I will encourage any father out there, drill your son. You know to drill them. You don't give them anything because in the world, nothing is given.
Yeah.
And it's an opportunity to teach lessons. Now, I always tell all the kids that after you beat your father or you beat your mother, whoever it is, you're not going to be able to play them anymore because they're not going to play anymore.
That's true. It. Walk away, I'm done.
We're done here. And I laugh because that's what Kyrie was talking about when he played his father. Like, he beat his father the first time, and since then, I'm good. I'm all set. And I remember that's how I did with my sons. When they finally beat me, my oldest son finally beat me, it was like he was running around like he was going to start popping bottles. He was so pumped up, like they were throwing champagne out. So those things happen. And so, with that, with Kyrie Irving and his dad and that question I asked him, that was just a great way to get some insight to who Kyrie Irving really was.
So you mentioned Kyrie just rolling in a small, tight circle, and we know that about him as well. He and Jason Tatum, though, are really close. I think for a number of reasons. They're teammates, Duke boys, they share the same agent, they've done camps together. There are a lot of different facets that bring them together. Now, I don't believe, we've talked about this, I don't believe that Danny Ainge would deal Jason Tatum for Anthony Davis. I know you do, or at least you would. But would Kyrie want that, do you think? And I ask that from this perspective. Davis is clearly further along in his career. He's one of the top players in the league, at least when he's healthy and on the floor. But Kyrie's a weird duck. Would he be okay with dealing Tatum away if it meant bringing Davis in?
Well, I think one thing about it, I think he knows that it's business. And when you know it's business, then you're gonna make those changes. You're gonna be in a position that you understand how, when, what, and what to do. And the game is a different game. And when you play it the right way, and if you're looking at Kyrie Irving right now and said that, trades are going to be made, that you have to understand as a basketball player. That's just a basic nature of the game. And, when you play it at the level and you make those trades, I think good things happen.
Would Kyrie do it, do you think? Clearly, it's Danny Ainge's decision. It's not up to Kyrie. But would Kyrie do it? Would he ship out Jason Tatum to bring in Anthony Davis, you think?
Well, I just think that if you look at a veteran player and you want to win, you're going to take the best players available.
Yep.
Jason Tatum is going to be a dynamic player. You know what you have in Anthony Davis. So if you're trying to make super teams, you make super trades, and sometimes players have to be sacrificed.
Is it true in what you've observed? Because, I don't know that you definitively know, but like Kevin O'Connor reported on The Ringer recently that Kyrie is really only close with Jason among his teammates. Is there that much of a divide in that room? Does it seem like he's not all that tight with anyone else?
I don't know enough about Kyrie to tell you that, who he hangs out with. I think he loves to win. I think he loves the game in a huge way. But I think that you also just understand that winning becomes habit for me. And to win games, to me, is always a huge thing. So I think Kyrie is going to be fine, winning. But when you lose games, I think there are times when you just feel that there's the weight of the world on you. And that's how the NBA is.
Going back to Anthony Davis, Mark Spears had an interesting remark on The Jump a few days ago. He said he was told through the Pelicans there's no way Davis will be traded to the Lakers. Now, clearly we know Davis could always wind up with the Lakers as a free agent a year or so, but given what you know and what we've seen, what we've heard about Rich Paul trying to push Davis to L.A. in a trade before the deadline, and seemingly he'll be trying to force that again in the offseason, are you buying that part, that the Pelicans just will not do it?
I think that the Pelicans are being smart. Pelicans know that they have the cards in their hands right now. And so what they're saying is that we're going to make the best trade at the end of the year. So if you make the best trade at the end of the year, you want all the parties out there that can be involved. And the Celtics would be one of those parties that has the most assets that you can look at and change and get back to, at least trying to win basketball games and have a basic foundation. Who would you want? Do the Celtics have more assets than anybody else? I think they do. And that's why I think that the Celtics right now, that's why I think the Pelicans have waited and not made that trade to L.A. L.A. was just trying to give them everything. They were like, no. Why are we rushing right now when we already have the commodity and we can look at other suitors at the end of the year, knowing what the Celtics might get in draft picks and all the things that happen during the free agency. So I think it's a very smart move by the Pelicans.
Final break to tell you today's show brought to you by The Athletic. If you haven't heard about The Athletic by now, you got to be living under a rock. These guys have been crushing every element of sports coverage imaginable, whether you're looking for specific local coverage with beat guys or sports discussed under a national lens, anything in between. You got to make sure you check out The Athletic. No pop-ups, no ads, just high-quality content waiting behind every single click. Jake King, Jared Weiss, friends of this show, some of the most knowledgeable guys that cover the seas. And it's not just them. They have Shams Charania, Sam Amick, Frank Isola, a bunch of other great NBA and college basketball writers. You can't get content like this anywhere else. 600 to 750 new articles every single week. Who else is pushing out content like that? If you haven't signed up yet, take advantage of this deal because it's not going to last forever. Go to theathletic.com/CelticsBeat. Get 40% off your monthly subscription. That's a subscription for less than $3 a month. Seriously, that's it. Just go to theathletic.com/CelticsBeat. Shams, Amick, King, Weiss, all less than $3 a month. Sign yourself up. Go to theathletic.com/CelticsBeat. Let's get back to Max. Stephen A. Smith does not shy away from controversial comments. He was on the Sedano show recently to discuss what's plagued the Seas this year, and just out of the blue threw this out here. I'll let you listen.
Then there's the element of Boston, Massachusetts. They don't just want a star. Of course, they'll take any star that they can get because their priority is winning. But everybody and their mother knows that, particularly when it comes to Boston, if we could have a white superstar, that would be even better. And they viewed Gordon Hayward as having that kind of potential. So all of those things considered, the players recognized this, were aware of it, and ultimately those who were compromised by having to be on a court with Gordon Hayward were sensitive to it. Not because they don't like him, not because he's not a good guy, because he is a good guy. It's just that they know he hasn't fully recovered.
Max, you played in Boston. You have been in Boston for a long, long time since. Do you believe in 2019 that this is true, that fans in Boston prefer a white star and that current players who are not white are sensitive to that?
No, I don't believe that. What I believe, what Stephen A. is saying, is that if you were marketing your team, and this could be as controversial as it can be, but if you were marketing your team, and you had players of equal value, you could probably market a player who would be white better than you could a black player in any team in the NBA. So I don't think that he's far off from that, but I don't think Boston would be exclusive to having a player. I always look at Luka Doncic right now in Atlanta, and I think Atlanta would be much further off if they had taken Luka, especially with their fan base, and trying to build a fan base around that particular player. So there are things he said which are true, but Boston does not have an exclusivity on that particular issue.
So you think, though, that if LeBron's one of the best of all time, there isn't another LeBron, let alone there being a white LeBron. But if there was a white LeBron in the NBA, you think that guy would be more marketable to, regardless of the city, to an NBA team than LeBron James is?
Yes.
Why?
Because exactly what you said. The fan base of the NBA is a white fan base.
You think that?
Most people buy tickets. You think not?
I don't. I think it's mostly. I mean, look, there are plenty of white people that go to games. I had season tickets, but
do you think that the majority? Let's look at the majority of the people who are season ticket holders in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the percentages would be 25, 75? They would be white, or they'd be black?
I think 75. Well, season ticket holders.
75% of all season ticket holders are probably white.
You think it's that high?
Do you think?
Well, but here, let me ask you. Let's break it down more because and I'm certainly not going to reach out to the Celtics to ask that question. I don't know how that would be received. But let me ask you this then. Let's break it down a different way. Let's say that's true. Let's say there's I don't know, some sort of, I don't know if it comes down to affluence of sponsors wanting to buy tickets for clients, whatever else, and I don't know. That gets into a murky area. But even if you contend that there are more white season ticket holders than there are black, isn't it possible that the larger, greater stateswide fan base is African American?
No, I think it's still that buy tickets. No, I think that the larger base of the people who buy tickets, season ticket holders, are white.
But remove the buy tickets.
Wait a minute, you're asking somebody from a perspective who played with one of the greatest white players of all time.
Yeah.
Larry was built for this particular team. Now, would Magic would have been a better fit here, or would he been a better fit in L.A.? Just looking at, the cities, how they are, with the persona of the cities. Larry was a better fit here.
Sure.
Not only because he was a white player, but he was a great white player, and he was a great player, period.
Well, I think a lot of that's personality, too. Like, he didn't want anything to do with anybody, whereas, Magic Johnson wanted the glitz, the glam, L.A., Hollywood, all of that.
Absolutely. Those were two different issues. But you're looking at a guy I was very prejudiced as a basketball player. I didn't think white guys could play. God had a funny way with me of giving me not one, but giving me two of the greatest white players of all time on my team when I was playing.
Yeah.
Kevin McHale and Larry Bird.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a perspective of looking at it not just from, a player standpoint, but I still remember just looking at the fan base that we had. Loving Larry Bird, not only because he was a great player, but he was a great white player too. There were a lot of players who were very envious of Larry Bird when he came in the league because he was white. But then they had to respect Larry Bird because he was a great player.
But I think in terms of global appeal and just the marketing of the league and the kids that grow up wanting to be in the NBA right now and the stars in the league who are obviously predominantly black versus white, I think there's a big change. You gotta, back in when you played, there were a lot more and more talented white players than there are today. In fact, you could go down, if you don't think.
Wait a minute. What did you say? There were more talented white players?
Than there are now.
Well, you look at the Porzingises in the world. You look at the Luka Doncic's in the world. You look at for a while when Dirk was playing at his best.
But you're naming all foreign players. Like, who would you say is the
foreign players? I'm naming foreign players, but I'm naming guys who are in the NBA. It doesn't have to do anything about where they're from. But are they white or are they black? Am I naming white players?
No, that's true. Yeah, I can't disagree with that.
So these are just players who are white. It doesn't matter. It makes any difference about that. It's just this is who they are. I think that it's a great question. It's a great debate, but I don't think Boston has an exclusivity on wanting a player that would be white and would be great for its fan base.
You may very well be right about that. What I think Stephen A. was doing, what I think a lot of people still do nationally, not locally, is bring it back to issues of race that were once clearly very prevalent that I don't think are anymore when it comes to whether the stars in Boston are white, black, from a foreign country, whatever it is. Black athletes in this city have for years and years and years been viewed as gods. Like Kevin Garnett, obviously if we're talking about the Celtics, is one of the favorite Celtics of all time and was here for half a decade.
Okay. Yeah, you're talking about Kevin Garnett. Yeah, he was a great player, but you also look at some of the players during their past. I've talked to a bunch of black players about who have been here, who have played here, and they felt in some ways that they were it's like Jim Rice, for instance. Jim Rice has a tough time being here, playing with the Red Sox.
But what about guys who have played in the last, say, 10, 15 years, like more recently?
I think things have really changed. I think they have definitely changed, but there's still a defined manner of black and white. Mm-hmm. I don't think we can get away from that. I think that people want to put their heads in the ground and think that, oh my God, there's no difference between a white player, a white superstar, and a black superstar. I just think that you're crazy if you think that way. I think that in the way that society is built, there's some things which are still out there which favor white players, especially if they're great white players.
We could obviously do this particular issue forever. I've enjoyed, by the way, very much the debate that we did just have for the few minutes it was. But in the spirit of controversy, because I want to make sure we do this before I let you go, Russell Westbrook, that situation, a fan in Utah who has since been banned from that arena, shouted disrespectful, racist remarks at him when the Thunder were in Salt Lake, told him to get on his knees like he's used to. Westbrook responded by cursing at the fan, threatening this guy and his girlfriend as well. Fan denies that he said what Westbrook heard, but plenty of players sided with Westbrook. Several C's have weighed in on just fan heckling in general, like Jason Tatum, Kyrie Irving, and Brad Stevens. Let's hear from them.
We appreciate the fans and their support, but sometimes they can get carried away, and that was out of line. I mean, people always expect us to turn the shoulder, and we get paid all this money. We should be able to let them talk to us any kind of way, and that's just not true.
I've heard it all, man. Like Utah, Phoenix, and California, however you want to go, like fans are going to be passionate about their teams, but that's just taking it too far. And then on top of it, in Utah, the fans are right on top of you. I don't really mind the fan interaction, but not while I'm at work and you're trying to get me to go, because let me come to your office and yell in your ear like that. That's the same thing I value, is just the respect thing of the game and people's professions.
One of the best things we can do is try to be alert to the fact that everybody involved is human being. We understand that good-natured heckling comes with the territory, and at the same time, there is a line.
I feel like I'm asking a stupid question here, Max, but when you played, were you ever involved in one of these situations?
No, never was anything like that.
Never?
Never had anything like that towards me like that as a player. You just got and you play the game. I've had a lot of heckling before, but it wasn't anything that I viewed as
personal.
That I was black or I was white. No.
What's the worst, just in the spirit of levity, obviously, because we've gotten more serious than we're used to, what's the worst you were ever heckled, maybe in a fun way?
And I just heckled, talking about me, talking about my family, but I just kind of let that go. I think that now it's a new era. I think players are a lot more sensitive. There's a sensitivity about it. So I don't think that there's no way to win unless you do like they do in Europe, and you can't play at all. They put you behind a fence, and the fans can't reach out and touch you. That's what makes the NBA so unique, the fact that fans can interact in a way that they can almost reach out and touch you, like no other sport.
Well, Kyrie said, he's heard it in a whole bunch of different cities. He didn't get specific, obviously, but when you guys are on the call and in the times that you're seated closer to the floor anyway, because I know that varies building to building, have you ever heard any of this stuff?
No, I have not heard any of that.
So when the Russell Westbrook story broke, were you surprised by it, just what had happened and the fact that, some of the players spoke out saying that they had been through this?
I don't think I was surprised that the players stepped up and said things, because players hear different things. During my particular era, I never heard anything like that. But you also look at, some of the references during the 80s about, the way the league was. I mean, people refer to the Knicks as use the N-word and balkers. So I don't think that there's some things that aren't removed from the NBA that, still kind of underline. The tone of that, I don't know what the tone was to Westbrook. I don't know if it was one of the things like bow down because, our team is greater than yours. It might not have been, as racial as that, but he took it that way, and that's all that really mattered. This league is a different league. If you understand who you're playing and how it goes, then, you just say, hey, the world still, as much as we want to believe that it's an equal footing for everybody, it's not like that. Be it whatever player you were or who you are, there's still some real differences.
Max, we've gotten far more serious over the last 15 or however many minutes than we typically do, which is it's not the way I feel like ending the show. So I'm going to put you on the spot. Here's what I want you to do. Do you have a really good, fun story from your playing days or since that I know you tell a lot of stories, but maybe one that not a lot of people have heard?
I'm not sure. I mean, the only story I can tell, I always think is the funniest story was, and this, it won't be controversial, but it will be somewhat, racy.
Okay.
The fact that we talk about when the Celtics won the championship, and it was 08 or
08.
I had a buddy of mine who had went out and was hanging out at a place. He was partying, and he sees this woman, and she was like had Celtic paraphernalia on. So he looks at her and he said, "Hey, you love the Celtics?" She said, "I love the Celtics." She said, he said, "Man," she said, my best friend, one of my best friends is Cedric Maxwell." And she said, "Oh my God." She said, "I love the Celtics, and I used to love Cedric Maxwell. I don't like him anymore." She's like, "You don't like him anymore?" She's like, "Well, why?" And the woman says, "He's gay." And my buddy said, "He's not gay." She said, "No, yes, he is gay. I saw him on." She said, "Why did he say that?" "I saw him on Phantom Gourmet, and he said him and his partner went out to have something to eat." I was talking about Sean Grandy. So I can leave you with that one. That's like nothing about, being gay. I'm not, I have nothing about that at all, not offended. But at that time, I just thought that was funny that this woman did not like me because the perception that I was gay. But I was on Phantom Gourmet talking about going out to eat with me and my partner, and it was Sean Grandy. So
I can't think of a better way to end the show.
But I might be gay, but Sean Grandy is not going to be my type. Okay, I can tell you that.
Well, and Sean's busy getting ready to get married anyway to a woman.
Absolutely. And I see how you purchase that? To a woman. Okay, great. All right.
Although I'm sure he'd be really fond of you.
You know what? That's the way I'm not going. Okay, I'm good. As somebody said, hey, I'm straight. Okay, I'm good.
Maybe at some point in time, I'll play this back for him and ask him to respond, and we'll do that.
That would probably, you guys from Sean, probably be a good thing to do.
Cedric Maxwell, always a pleasure. We'll do it again sometime in the playoffs.
All right, sounds good, my friend. Talk to you later.
That was a lot of fun with Max, as always. And, I don't want to keep this thing going any longer, but I like that we had the opportunity to dive into some of those issues in the last 20 minutes or so of that interview, because they're prevalent topics around the NBA right now and obviously should not be ignored. They deserve a place here on this show, and I can't think of a better person to be able to weigh in on it than Max, who just coincidentally was already booked before any of those talking points became relevant. But thanks again to Max, my producer, Evan Valenti. Thanks to Nick, Larry, John, everybody else, all of you for listening. Really appreciate you. Go to iTunes, subscribe to Celtics Beat. Of course, you can find us on Stitcher, on my Twitter. I put it out there all the time, at Adam M. Kaufman. And yes, we'll promote the shows multiple times to make sure you have a chance to hear them. One more time, today's show brought to you by betonline.ag. Go to clnsmedia.com/CelticsBeat or use the promo code CLNS50 to get a 50% bonus. John's busy getting ready to get married anyway, to a woman.
Absolutely. And I see how you purchase that? To a woman. Okay, great. All right.
Although I'm sure he'd be really fond of you.
You know what? And that's the way I'm not going, okay? I'm good. As somebody said, hey, I'm straight, okay? I'm good.
Maybe at some point in time I'll play this back for him and ask him to respond. And we'll do that.
That would probably, you guys some time, probably be a good thing to do.
Cedric Maxwell, always a pleasure. We'll do it again sometime in the playoffs.
All right. Sounds good, my friend. Talk to you later.
That was a lot of fun with Max, as always. And, I don't want to keep this thing going any longer, but I like that we had the opportunity to dive into some of those issues in the last 20 minutes or so of that interview, because they're prevalent topics around the NBA right now and obviously should not be ignored. They deserve a place here on this show, and I can't think of a better person to be able to weigh in on it than Max, who just coincidentally was already booked before any of those talking points became relevant. But thanks again to Max, by producer Evan Valenti. Thanks to Nick, Larry, John, everybody else, all of you for listening. Really appreciate you. Go to iTunes, subscribe to Celtics Beat, of course.